Man, he's a classic. Big Ten, the one has coached 37 seasons, and he has also had over 1,041 career wins and counting. He is the one of the two top Iowa head coaches that led the program to the NCAA tournament, ranked sixth in wins. Go ahead, coach. All right, I like that. Coach also has advanced in the postseason 7 consecutive seasons. All right. And the first time in the program history, he also has had 13 All Americans, one Big Ten Player of the Year, two Big Ten Pitchers of the Year, one Big Ten Freshman of the Year, and at least one first time Big Ten selection of the eighth season. Also, Coach has had 34 Major League Baseball draft picks. Good job, Coach. And also a total of 41 has signed professional contracts in 11 seasons. Wow, I got to keep going. And also, Coach has coached the USA team. Go ahead, Coach. I love it. That's what I'm talking about. He also a member of the Upper Iowa Athletic Hall of Fame. Good job. Member of the American Baseball Coaches Association. He's also a member of the Iowa High School Baseball Coaches Association. And most importantly, he has a lovely wife named Rachel and three beautiful kids. How you doing, Coach?
I'm good, Coach Lowry. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the
Man, that's
nice
great.
intro. I appreciate it.
Hey, like that intro. Yeah, I love it, Coach. Man, Coach, so it's good to have you. We've been trying to catch each other for a couple of weeks. It's such a delight to have you. Coach, let's get right to it because I didn't know that you played baseball. I know that you
Mhm.
coach. I know you got a great resume, but let's get into the player. Let's go back and rewind to the player back in the day. So
All
the
right.
first question is, Coach, what type of player were you when you played at Upper Iowa, being a three-sport athlete? I'm gonna repeat that, three-sport athlete. So what was that like, a young Rick Heller?
Well, I would start out by saying I really, really love to play. I mean, I love to play. From the time I was 6, 7 years old, um, I love to play. I mean, if we got rained out, I could go to my room and cry. That was how much I loved to play. And I was the guy that was pulling all the neighborhood kids to play in the summer. And I love to play basketball. I love to play football. When people ask me, teachers would say it like at 12, 13 years old, like, what are you going to do, Rick? What are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to play ball in college. And they're like, well, which sport? I said, I'm going to play all three. And they laugh at me. And so,
Oh, that's
you know,
funny.
as fate would have it, some things happened in my life. I ended up at Upper Iowa, which ended up being, one of the best, if not the best, decision I made. And I listened to my football coach, um, Bob Gerard was his name. My my, uh, my girlfriend and I had a baby in
Okay,
high school. In
okay.
high school, and man, you find out who your friends are, and you find out who has your back when something like that happens, because people write you off like it's over,
Right.
and probably not. Maybe there are kids listening, but I mean,
Oh yeah, it's
I,
kids
I
listening.
didn't listen. I didn't listen to those people. I didn't let it stop my goals, my dreams, what I wanted to do. So when I went to college, I was looking at schools, and I could have went bigger places to play, baseball. Could have went bigger places to maybe play football.
Okay.
My football coach grabbed me uh, early in the summer after my senior year, and he said, "Come with me. I'm going to take you to Upper Iowa." I said, "Okay. Why are you taking me up there?" He said, "Because it's small. It's a small school." And he goes, "My old football coach, Don Butterbaugh, is the football coach, and I know they will take care of you with your family and your situation.
Situation.
I worry about you at a bigger place, with all the help you might need. And I know these people will care about you and they will help you if you do a good job."
Hmm.
And so my football coach on his own drove me, almost 4 hours to visit the school, meet the people. I ended up
Wow.
meeting the baseball coach, Bill Prohaska. I really love Coach Butterball, and it's crazy because both of those guys still come down and see my games to this day.
Wow.
And thanks to Coach Gerard, he's passed now, but thanks to Coach Gerard for for doing that, because had I not done that, who knows where I would have ended up. And so when I got up there, football practice started first, right? So we're in 2 days.
Right.
We're in 2 days, and this is crazy. I don't tell many people this story about having the baby and stuff. My
Right.
daughter Tara.
Hmm.
Um, I left after a week of 2 days. I had asked the coaches prior. I went home. I got married at 9 a.m. at the Justice of the Peace,
Wow.
and then I played in the Legion State tournament at 1 o'clock. We got beat in extra innings for the state championship on Sunday. I jumped in the car and made it to the last meeting of 2 days at about 9 o'clock that night, and then just kept rolling from there. And the basketball side, I didn't consider myself a great player. I was a pretty good player,
Hmm.
and I was playing with. Football guys have been mad, but you weren't supposed to play basketball during football. So I would sneak over on Sunday, and who was playing pickup in the gym, and I was like, when did the varsity guys play? And they're like, oh, that's them right there. And I'm like, oh, I'm going out for basketball after this. So I ended up playing, three sports,
Wow.
which was a blast. But baseball was, my primary and the one I loved, and played it in the summer. Back then, the summer league was a lot different. But I mean, I would drive an hour, hour and a half for home games, to be able to play, 50 games in the summer. Um, and I just loved to play, man. I just loved to play. And I
Man.
wanted to play pro ball. Got hurt in football my junior year. I got kind of cheap shotted over. I was a receiver, overthrown pass. A guy wrapped my arms after about 5 steps when the play was over, and then threw me on my shoulder, separated my left shoulder. Thank goodness my left shoulder, not my throwing shoulder.
Okay.
Cracked my sternum, had to have a pin put in it, and so I was like, dang, that messes up
Really?
your baseball in your draft year. Um, and so I didn't play football my senior year so that I could get healthy for baseball, in hopes that I would get a contract. Um, Long story, went to lots of tryouts, got invited to this, to that. Um, and for whatever reason, uh, I didn't make it. And I can look in the mirror, and I'm not one of those guys that say I should have did it, that
Right.
whatever. At that point in time, for whatever reason, I gave it my best shot.
Correct.
And now I know, because my calling is what I'm doing. I ended up playing as long as I could. Took a high school job down in southern Missouri, Bakersfield, Missouri,
Okay.
and after 1 year, I was coming up to work a basketball camp, and I got a hold of AD on the phone accidentally, and he said, "Hey, the baseball job's opening up. Program had been falling down, and Coach Pro was going to give it up and just focus on basketball." And so, long story short, they hired me at 23, turned 24 like a month after they hired me, and it wasn't because I was special. It was because nobody really wanted that job. And, but I knew in my heart that, one, we could turn it around and be good, and two, I knew I wanted to coach at the college level. And if I stayed too long at the high school, you get pigeonholed, and it's hard to move up. And with the
Right.
family, it wasn't going to be a situation where I could just jump in and volunteer and do those things. So I
Right.
took a $12,000 pay cut from the high school job to go to Upper Iowa, my alma mater, and be the baseball coach. I had to be the residence hall director, move my family into the residence hall, but it was what I had to do to get my foot in the door.
Right.
And everybody in my circle was like, "No, don't do that. No, no, you'll never get another job." But I knew from being there that we could win.
Right.
And so, they hadn't won in 16, hadn't had a winning season in 16 years. And first year was rough. Second year we competed but lost a lot of close games. And third year we had a winning season. And then year five we won the league and won the tournament and won a game in the regional. 96. So have been almost 8 years, eight,
Right.
eight 9 years. We went to the Division III College World Series,
Hmm.
and beat the number one team in the country, and almost won it. But anyway, so that was my story. But I love to play. That's how I was I before Pete Rose, the baseball player. I love Pete Rose, the baseball player, and that's how I tried to play hard every day. Till the last time I played, I sprint in my position. I sprint
That's
off the
right.
field. I run the bases hard, uh, everything, run every 90 hard, play hard. There's only one
Mm.
way to play. Uh, in
Well,
my
coach,
mind,
you
only
got
one way
me.
to play.
I like you,
That's
coach.
how I played, and that's what I try to instill in our players.
Well, great, because nowadays these kids aren't like that. They're not like
Mm-mm.
that. You know that, right? None
Well,
of them.
no, yeah, they're
Very
not,
few.
unless someone like you is helping them understand it. And that's my question, Coach Lowry. That's a tough question because the younger me would have went and watched a kid and seen him maybe not run one out or not hustle out or
Correct.
whatever, and I'd write him off the list. Now I sit there and go, has anybody told him that he should do that or that it would be good for him to do that? Does
Correct.
he even know that? And that's where guys like you, where you're at now, can really help those kids because
Correct.
a guy like me, he's going to catch my eye if he's doing that. You know, from the time you get to the ballpark, if he's taking things seriously, he does his throwing program with intent. He's not jacking around, BSing, that type of thing. But my question now, whereas before I would have assumed he knew and was
Correct.
choosing to do that, I don't know now because that's where we have gone to your point, and I have to try to figure that out, which isn't easy. But if I find somebody else that is doing that, that's as
Mm-hmm.
good as him, I'm taking that guy because I don't want to risk it. you
Correct.
know?
All right. That's good because I was, like you just said. I mean, which leads me to the next question is so as the young Rick, what have you learned from a player that you're a coach now that you have learned to listen? Because that's one of the most powerful words I say at the end of my show is listen, because nobody wants to listen. Everyone wants to talk. The younger Rick versus your coaching Rick. What have you listened that you executed that made you a better coach today?
Well, I would tell you, and this may sound this may sound bad, but I didn't play for a lot of coaches. I played for a lot of coaches that were good guys, great guys that did a good job maybe off the field or cared about you. But in the baseball world, where I grew up in a little small town in southeast Iowa, I
Okay.
wasn't getting any instruction. It was just play, just play.
Okay.
And so I knew at a young age I was going to be a coach. So I would log all the things that I thought were good and bad in my head, the things I thought would have helped me once I became a coach. I said to myself, I will never have a kid leave my program that says this, says that, because I would have ran through the wall. If you told me, Coach Lowry, that if I did this, it was going to help me be better, I would be doing
Right.
that. I just didn't get any of it, much of anything on the player development side, on the strength training side, on any kind of conditioning, on technique, that type of thing. So when I got older and I realized, man, I was a pretty good athlete. I could run, throw, hit, but my stuff, it was pretty messy. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
mechanics weren't good. My footwork was bad. I was a shortstop. Looking back, I didn't think so at the time because I know him better.
Right.
But had someone like I try to be now had grabbed me and just showed me, I'd have been doing that stuff till midnight, to try to be the best at it. So I have always leaned on the fact that I want every kid that leaves my program to be the best player that they can possibly be based on all of the things I know. And as a guy who's done it, 38 years or whatever, I still try to get better every year so that I can coach my guys better so that no kid ever leaves my program and says, man, if you just showed me that, I could have maybe got a chance to play pro ball or,
Right.
or whatever. And so for me, I came into it as a development guy. I came into it really young. So, the question that you asked me, I had to really listen because I was playing with kids that were my age, or I was coaching kids that were my age. In fact, I was coaching some kids that I played with.
Okay.
So the lesson for me that thank God I was smart enough to figure out on my own was that there had to be a separation between coach and player. Because had I come in there and been their friend or been their buddy, I would have never made it. You'd
Correct.
have got run over. And I've seen guys make that mistake. I've seen high school guys were friends of mine make that mistake coming out of college when they were close to that age. The one thing I did was I separated it, and that's how my friends even I say, listen, this is who we are off the field, but when we're on the field, this is the way it's going to be, and it's not going to be joking
Any different?
around any of that. I had to be really hard to make that happen, which wasn't comfortable all the time. And those first 3 years, I really had to lock in and almost focus on separating a lot, especially being a residence hall director, because I was around them then. It was a challenge. Let me tell you, that was a hard challenge. Was having respect and mutual respect and giving instruction and doing all the things we were trying to do to build the program and pushing them to play harder than they had before and have them, a lot of them know me as a player. I think it bodes well to what I told you earlier being the truth. They knew I played hard and they knew, so I walked the walk and I wasn't asking them to do anything that they hadn't seen me do. So that helped me, but it still was touchy at times when you're, trying to get guys to do something when you are exactly the same age. But that was the
Mm.
biggest challenge for me when I first started.
And coach, I mean, that was pretty good. I mean, I've hired younger guys as well, and I told you I coach at a high school, and I hired a guy that's out of college, and I had to tell him like, listen, you can't be their friends. I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you
Right,
again, don't be their friends. Yes,
right,
I look young. Yes, I work out all the time. Yes, I take care of myself, but they know I don't play. We can talk, but on the field, we're business. This is
yeah,
business. We're not
yeah,
buddies. And I've had that issue, God, 3 or 4 years straight. I'm like, listen, I keep telling you this. They're not going to respect you because they think you're one of them. So,
right.
but that's something
Oh,
you got to
and
learn.
you're dead on. And like I said, I have seen over my career a lot of guys either lose their job or get fired uh, for that very reason.
Correct. I had to let go of a guy. I just didn't
Yep.
tell him to come back. Just don't come back. And I
Right.
didn't even bring it up because I knew after so many times, you're like, okay, apparently he's not getting what I'm saying because I'm trying to be nice about it because if my AD gets a hold of him, it ain't gonna be nice,
Right.
because then you got other issues that I should take care of as a head coach. Which
Hmm.
coach? This is another question I got for you because you're an Iowa guy. I'm a Chicago guy. I was born and raised Chicago, played ball up in Chicago high school. So it's very cold, which I'm
Yeah.
going. You know where I'm at. So I gotta ask this question. So you're a Iowa guy. So playing for a guy that wants to come to your program, just in general, just say a guy come to your program that's listen to the podcast. He says, I want to go up in the Iowa area. I might want to check out this coach out here. I like him. He got the Pete Rose hard nosed work attitude, which I love it. I'm all for you, coach. I'm a Big Ten Iowa fan now. So, question: how will you prepare a guy coming from a warmer climate to a colder climate? Because I'm being very transparent, coach. It's hard for me to play in cold weather, and
Yeah.
I'm from Chicago. So how would you prepare a recruit coming to your program, coming from a colder, a warmer environment?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is the truth. Okay. I wouldn't try to hide it or fake it or, it's not that to a South Florida kid, especially because I've coached kids from South Florida in the
Okay.
north when I was at Upper Iowa, quite a lot of them. I also had California kids, I also had Arizona kids. So first and the first thing is we travel the first 4 weeks. Okay, so we are going to go to the warm weather when it is the coldest up here. So when
Okay.
those coaches in the South say, "Hey, come here," whatever, it's really not a valid reason to choose because when you go south in February, unless you're going south of Tampa or Houston or Phoenix, um, it's cold everywhere. It's chilly everywhere. So basically, when we get back home and start playing here, it's a lot like the weather all the way to the Gulf that time of year. So unless the kid is from those specific areas, like where you're at now
Hmm.
that kid probably hasn't played cold. Okay,
Correct.
there aren't many that haven't played in the spring somewhere where it was 40 degrees or 45 degrees, like it can be at times up here. So I would tell them that. And then the next thing I would tell them is that I want you to come and look at our facilities because our office space, locker room, hitting cages are here. The big indoor football practice area is literally 40 yards across the door from our batting cage.
Oh,
So our field is it's like a triangle. Our field is another 60 yards over here, and we have turf. And even though it's cold up here, even in January and February, it can be brutal. But like last year, we were outside. Um, we were outside like 12 days, 14 days in February because we had one of those early springs, and it was very nice. And if you have turf, you can get out and play on it. So if you have the type of indoor football building that we have, you can do everything that you would be doing in the South
okay.
indoors. And if you look at our record at Iowa in those early 4 weeks, um, I don't. We don't let our guys see that as a disadvantage anymore because of our quality facilities. And it can be a situation where maybe the pitchers and the infielders are staying in, but it's pretty cold this day. Outfielders are going to go out, bundle up, put on some warm clothes, and for 20 minutes they're going to take fly balls, and then boom, they come back in. Because of the layout at Iowa, we can take advantage of that situation. And I tell the recruits, listen, in the Mid South, a lot of those people don't have that football building that we have or can get in something like that. They're in pole sheds, with space heaters. And it can ice, it can be this. We can come back, say we go to Tampa, we open up in Tampa this year, we play South Florida. We come home and the weather's bad here. We can go in there and work on everything that we need to work on to be better the next week when we go to Deland for the tournament at Stetson. And
Right.
and boom, I feel like that our situation from an indoor facility gives us every advantage that we need to be competitive out of the chute. Now, for action, but then to backtrack, a Southern kid, he's going to go through the fall, and the falls are beautiful, and it's almost 60 degrees today, but it slowly gets colder and colder, so they get acclimated to the cold, and then when we start playing in February on the road, it's a lot of times really cold here. But by then, we're coming out of the coldest part of the winter. And so as it gets to 30, 40, even the Southern kid is like, whoa, it feels pretty good. It was
Correct.
not 20 below or 10 below like it was, a month ago. And so they will get acclimated to the weather. And then the last thing, and this is the, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, it's worked for me with my philosophy because I've seen coaches my whole career try to have guys uh, tough it out. Don't wear sleeves. Don't do this. Don't do that. I mean, whatever. Try to pretend like it's totally a mental toughness deal. You know what I tell my guys? The warmest team is going to win. So you do whatever you need to do to be warm. And we got hand warmers, and I've got the heaters. You know what our dugout benches are? They're like the NFL heaters that make it 70 degrees. I've got radiant I've got radiant heaters above in the dugout. And my clubhouse is right there. So if a pitcher's going to the bullpen, I send him in there, go get warm and run down. So because here's the deal. You throw strikes, you're quick, it's windy, it's cold. Let's have the longest inning possible, the first, second inning, and they're done.
That's right.
The team that reaches out first on the field, they're done. We're going to win it, because especially the guys that think they're being tough, because they're not being
Oh.
tough. Because I tell you what, me, you, doesn't matter. Cold is cold, and once you lose your fingers and lose your toes, it's over.
It's over. It's over. It's over.
I don't care who you are. And so our game is be
Oh.
smart. Let's do everything humanly possible to be as warm as we can, and then let's
Oh
keep
man.
them out there as long as we can, and get on base and make them work and have a 20-minute, half-hour inning,
Oh.
and this game's over. That's what I do.
Coach, I gotta tell you, listen, listen, you I'm so much like that. Lex, we be playing a team. I was like, listen, you need to keep him in the field as long as possible. Keep him in the field as long as possible. Coach. I was like, listen, trust me. Just trust me. Don't think about. Just trust me. And it always works to your advantage because they're tired and
Yep.
they're mentally checked out. Like, listen,
Yep.
and when a team is in the field too long, they can't focus. They're like,
Nope.
what inning is this? How many? I've seen it happen in games. I've seen it
Yeah. Oh
happen in
yeah.
games, because you be in an inning so long, and I'm like, I'm on third base. Come on. They're like, coach. I'm like, trust me. Come on. That guy's not going to make the throw. But I just, coach. That's classic, coach. That's classic. I
We,
finally
we,
met.
we, we both watched the Yankees do it in the fifth inning the other day.
Like, let's go. Keep it moving. Let's go. It's like, coach, he can't run. Trust me. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge him. I want to challenge him, but thanks, coach. That was really good. So, coach, I got a question for you. This is another one. With
Okay.
today's society, we got today's society with the young people. Too many parents try to coach their kids, which we know what that's all about. If you got a freshman coming in, or a JUCO guy coming in, and he's a mama's boy, and nothing wrong with being a mama's boy. But my question is, how do you? Because you talked about making that transition from high school to college. What would be the best information to tell him? Because like when you go to the next level, elite players. Let's talk about elite. When you go from JUCO, there's some great JUCOs. No disrespect. When you
Right.
go to University of Big Ten, we're talking about Division I baseball. What is the best way to get them in that transition mentally? A mental approach, because they're a mama's boy, or they're so used to someone you know helping them all the time. Now they're in big time. What's the best way?
Well, for me, I have the advantage of trying to avoid those types of guys. I mean,
Okay.
because in our program, you're going to be held accountable for taking care of your business. You're going to be held accountable for um, your academics and not just lip service. You're going to have to be a good person and community service and all these things that we take pride in and we call win the day at everything, not just
Wow.
baseball and weight room, classroom, diet. So it's not perfect. And the way recruiting is now, you can't even talk to them in high school till August 1, junior year.
Junior
So
year.
it's tougher to try to get a feel for the family. But we still try because that part of it is important. But it basically it would just start with even the kids you're describing. Anybody who signs with us, they're getting inundated. Number one, we're going to tell them as we recruit them. That's what the expectations are. And if that isn't going to fit what you want, then don't call. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
the kid knows up front. I'm
Right.
not going to try to talk him into coming
Correct.
and then change when he gets here. So he's going to have to make that decision himself.
Okay.
But then what we're also going to try to do is once they're committed, and the families are going to be involved. I'm going to send letters to the family. We're a process program. Okay, we live in a world of what results. Everybody has been brought up to focus on results, and then they get here, and we're going to focus on the process and what the process, what takes every day, day in, day out, and then at the end, if you do the process well, the wins and losses take care of themselves. But we're
Correct.
focusing on quality at bats, and we're focusing on this. And so I try to educate in a positive way with our parents. Like, listen, I explained what the process is in our program, what we're talking to the kids about. If you sabotage that by after the game, Johnny was 0 for 3, but in my mind, Johnny hit two balls 105, and then he moved a runner and fought with two strikes to move that runner. I consider him to have a great day,
A great day.
great day. But if you're like, hey, and you're chasing hits, it's gonna sabotage us as a team being really
Right.
successful because for us at the University of Iowa to get where we want to go, we have to overachieve. We have to beat people maybe that have better raw talent. But if you're all together, you can do that.
Correct.
And parents can really sabotage that as well as agents. I mean, if a kid has the wrong agent, that is telling him the wrong thing. Just throw it as hard as you can. All the stuff that we've seen in our lives. Um, it's tough. It's tough in
Right.
our world, and so we try our best. Is it perfect? No, I'm not sitting here telling you it isn't without its issues because we all have to fight through some things. But for the most part, because we address it up front and we address it with the recruit and the recruiting process, how things are going to go, and then we are those guys when they get here. We don't change into somebody else. Our culture is really good, and after 12 years, it's been a steady every year get better, get better, get better with the culture. And you can look at our record, and there are obviously some years better than others. But I can tell you honestly, every year that uniform's been put in a better place because of our culture within our group. That the culture meaning what really happens on our team and the
Correct.
leadership that really happens on our team. Um, and we take that very seriously, and we'll never, promise them we will never ever take that for granted. And where you see some programs, they will be really good at it, and then it'll drop because if I if I don't take it seriously, it can go the other way in 2 3 weeks and go back 10 years.
Correct.
And I'm not going to let that happen. But it's hard work. Do I wish I could just kind of cruise now and let it happen? Yes, I do, because that is every day, man. I mean, that is
Right.
work every day, and it's not looking the other way. It's not looking the other way when it's your best player. All those things that are easy to do when you're tired, when you're run down, and like me, I've done it 38 years, but I'm not looking the other way, and I tell them that day one. And that doesn't mean I'm mean or going to yell at you, but I am going to hold you accountable, and that's how it is in our program. So long-winded answer, but that's how I try to do is head it off in the pass, talk about it up front,
Correct.
let them know what the expectations are, and then when we happen to get a guy that does fit that mold, which isn't that often, but we do get them, and then it's okay. He's here. What can we do to help him overcome it? Because he's obviously it's a trained habit that has to be broken, and then we don't crucify him or make
Correct.
him run or do that. I mean, it's education then on what he has to do because
Right.
at the end of the day, if I have to babysit you, I'll do it, but I'm also trying to replace you. And I tell them that. It's the same thing with motivation.
Right.
I mean, I'll do whatever I have to do. I'll do it. I mean, if I have to, if you come up to me and kids will do this random, it's like you need to push me harder, you need to yell at me because it is. I'll do that. But I'll tell them if I have to do that to get you to play baseball at this awesome school, University of Iowa in the Big Ten, I'll do it to help the team.
But
But I'm going to replace. I'm looking to replace you because
replace
there
you.
are plenty of kids out there that I won't have to do that.
Correct.
And if any one of us as coaches had the magic formula for true motivation for everyone, we'd be billionaires. We're gonna do whatever we have to do to
To do.
try,
Correct.
but ultimately everyone at a certain point is responsible for their own motivation,
Correct.
and that's
Which
how
coach?
I try to play it with those guys, and hopefully they survive. Do they? Sometimes they do, not all the
That's right. Well, coach, how do you prepare the parents?
time. Just like education and talking to them.
Okay.
I think a lot of times people, I hear them complain. Now it's way easier for me than high school. High
Correct.
school is a completely different animal,
Yes.
completely different.
Yes.
And for me, I am ultimately choosing who I recruit. Okay. Now, I don't know everybody's parents or anything, but if I go to the game and I see a psycho parent and I find out it's the kid I'm going to see, I I will not recruit that kid. It is not worth it for me. And I'm the
Hmm.
guy that over the years people will say, "Why didn't you recruit Johnny?" And I'll just say, "Oh, it didn't fit or whatever." But it was because of the parents.
Right.
And so if I can't find the guys whose parents are what okay, let's backtrack because I'm looking for not only the the talent to play Division 1 baseball. I'm looking for I'm looking for the kid that is humble, the kid that's going to care about his teammates more than himself. He's going to care about the right things. He's not going to get caught up in I got to do this for the draft. I got to do this things he can't control. That's ideally what we're looking for. So we end up with a lot of those guys, but those guys don't end up that way unless their parents have brought them up
Correct.
that way. And that
Correct.
doesn't mean that, I've had kids that weren't humble. We all have. But I've never had that kid that wasn't humble overachieve. They were good players, maybe, but they never went above what their talent level was.
Right.
And so those are things I look for. And in the recruiting process, the parents are hearing what we're talking about.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, I send letters, and I'll even send a Christmas letter because we start, in January. I'll send a long Christmas letter, and I'll break down the fall, break down how things went, just give them information, and then I will spell it out. Like, this is how we handle this. I will not take calls on playing time unless your son has come to me first. And I explain all the things we do, um, from an analytics standpoint, from a decision making standpoint. You may not agree with me. Baseball, the easiest sport in the world, second guess. But you may not agree with me on what we do. But I just need you to believe we love your kid, we care for your kid, we're doing what we believe is the best thing for the team to win. And I say all that stuff, and I don't think a lot of people actually tell them that. So they have second thoughts ever stepping over the bounds, and
Right.
and set the tone with rules on the road. Okay, here's the deal. Here's our rules. Here's our policy in the hotel, and I tell them, hey, I you guys have fun, do what you want to do, but this is not a vacation for us. I mean, and I'm free. I'm going to let your son go to. If there's a time, I'm going to let him go to supper. I'm not going to be a dictator and keep him here if he wants to go. But he also has to meet curfew. It can't be the line was too long.
Right.
So if there's a risk of him being late, then let him eat the team meal with us. Just try to educate them on every little detail, and being super organized has, I think, helped me have a wonderful group of parents that I can't complain about one. I don't have one season in my 11 years. This is my 12th year in my 11th season that I could say to you, man, that parent group was brutal. Zero, zero in today's world. Now, have I had a little riff here or there? Yes, but very little, and it was usually um, intelligent. It was usually an intelligent dialogue about what's going on. Um,
Mm.
so anyway, I just try to make sure I educate as best I can. But like I said, high school, man, it's rough.
Right. You're right, coach. So how do you deal with guys that want to come to your program that had the NIL situation? How do you handle for a kid that you know that they have this social media influence. They call them influenced, whatever you want to call them, but they call them influencers. They got all these people following them, but they all of a sudden play a sport and they're at the University of Iowa baseball team. How do you handle the NIL obligations and stay focused on your vision and purpose in Iowa D1 baseball?
Well, I think, I mean, so you're asking me how I've dealt with NIL
Yes,
in the
sir.
recruiting world, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's been really difficult, because it's a world of those who have collectives that give baseball money, and those who don't have collectives that give those money. So NIL for me has been rough because I'm the only one trying to help get NIL money into our program when I already have to fundraise for multiple things. I have to fundraise for the stadium, supplement salaries, supplement our managers program, get the tech and stuff that we need from an analytics and development standpoint that isn't in the budget.
Mm.
And then now I'm out there beating the bushes trying to build up money for NIL when other guys that I'm competing against don't have to do any of that. And
Correct.
and it's been a bit frustrating, to be honest, because it's luck of the draw where you're at. If you have billionaires in your booster pool that
Correct.
are willing to throw in millions of dollars without any return on their money, then you've got a huge advantage over us because we don't have that. I've
Correct.
been here 11 years. I don't know that I've met a billionaire in Iowa and the Midwest like this. And it isn't like we have super supportive fans and people who have really tried to help out. But unless you have, like some of the schools we're competing with, recruiting wise, they're throwing $10 million one
Correct.
guy into a I mean
Correct.
into a salary pool. So what I had to do, Coach Lowry, I had to put my blinders up and just keep working and just keep driving and trying to do the best I can to keep
Okay.
the players we have in our program. I've never been in a situation, and it's technically illegal to do it anyway, but nobody seems to follow the rules anymore. You're not supposed to be able to use NIL to induce a recruit. Well, we both know that's all that's going on.
Correct.
What I have tried to do is use NIL to help me keep guys from being stolen or cheaters coming in and asking my players to leave for more money
To go
and
somewhere else.
yeah, go somewhere else. And so I've been very fortunate that we had five of our players drafted last year and our two of our recruits, and two of them were very high profile guys that the cheaters tried to offer them large amounts of money, 500,000, $1 million, and my guys stayed for basically hardly anything because they wanted to be in our program and they are good kids, the right kids, like I told you. Now, is it going to always be that way? No, we'll lose somebody if it stays the way it is. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful as we move into this new world and all the things that are changing that in the next year to 2 years, the collectives go away as we see them, and that and I know even in the SEC and ACC and Big 12, their administrators they don't like it either. And I think everybody is trying to get it. Now we know there's revenue sharing, and we know that one thing we do know is that 22.5 million from all the schools in the power conferences is going to the players, and we know that the majority of that is going to be football, and then the rest is going to
Basketball.
probably be basketball. Now, some schools will they get baseball will get it, they'll get some, but not much, even at the
Right.
name schools in the South,
Correct.
because it is revenue sharing. Well, you're not going to have a 22.5 salary pool and then a collective salary pool over here. NIL's not going away, and don't get me wrong, the reason the reason NIL never happened and everybody fought to keep it from happening is what we're talking about. I don't think anybody was ever opposed to me or you going back home and doing a camp and keeping that money. Or if we were good, like say Caitlin Clark, nobody
Right.
wanted to hold her back from naming it because it's real.
Right.
It's the third, fourth string wide receiver getting $400,000 because they have that much money is what they knew they couldn't control. They couldn't control that loophole. And now I think there's a way, at least I'm hopeful that there's a way that NIL can be real NIL like we just talked about and not just a salary pool to supplement the other salary pool. Because if it does, it's an unwinnable game if that
Correct.
stays that way. And we'll just
You
have to keep fighting,
Well, you're
right?
right. I mean,
It,
but coach, you're right. You're 100% correct because I forgot that Caitlin came from your school as well. Caitlin Clark. I just forgot about it till you just brought it up. I mean, she's an assassin within herself. I mean,
oh
God
man.
bless her. She's a gifted young lady. She's respectable. And I can't say nothing but good things about the young lady. I don't know her personally, but I didn't
Well,
realize it till you just said it.
well, let me
Just
let me tell you a story. So this would have been July before her senior year or last year, and they had been on a trip to Italy and had just gotten back. And I was in my office at close to 7 o'clock on a weeknight in the summer, and I can hear when somebody's hitting from my office, and I hear the bat ping ping, and I'm like, "Who's there hitting?" I get up and I walk into the batting cage, and she dates Connor McCaffrey, who is our basketball coach, Fran McCaffrey's son. Well, Connor played for us. He did two sports. So Connor played baseball, for what at least maybe 3 years. But anyway, so injury caused him to have to quit baseball. But
mm,
Connor would have been pro baseball player. Actually turned down a free agent offer after his sophomore year. So I opened the door and Connor's pitching to Caitlin, and Caitlin's hitting in the cage at 7 o'clock on a weeknight. But that's the type of person that she is. I mean, that's their date night. And I was like, I just laughed. I just laughed and laughed.
I
Is
mean,
this
coach,
all you guys got to do? But
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
it's awesome.
It's a good
But
thing.
that's it.
I think that's a very good thing. I mean, Coach, I can't believe we've been talking for 45 minutes. This has been such a great show, and you're very hard to catch. So I have to, I gotta get it all in, Coach. I'm gonna give you two more questions. I had like several more, but I got two questions. No, next question is this: You coached you coached at another level as far as tournament games for the World Series, getting prepared for the World Series. What's the tournaments like versus coaching a USA team? What's the difference?
Well, and let's go back because it was not, it was not the USA team like the one in Cary. This was the World University Games
Okay.
that we were in, and the way that works, they pick a team from a college in the United States to represent baseball. Like we were the baseball team that year for the United States
Okay.
that went to Taipei. Okay, and the World University Games is the second. It's the second biggest event next to the Olympics. That's how many people were there. I mean, it was big. Um, like Purdue was the basketball team that year, and Maryland was the women's basketball team that year. And so I had an email, and they were asking for a team. Were you interested in representing the United States in baseball? And my first thought was, yes, I'm very interested, but I knew nothing about it, and I didn't know if it was one of those random emails that
Right.
went to every coach. So I called the guy and I said, "Hey, are you seriously asking us, or is this just one of
Spam.
those deals?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm seriously asking you because we had a team that dropped out, and baseball is not a sport. It's kind of like the Olympics. Each country has a pick of certain sports. So it was on in Taipei, they picked baseball. But then since then, they had baseball. If it's in Italy, they may not pick baseball. So it's not very often anymore that baseball is a sport in the World University Games. The
Okay.
last team, the last team who had been in it was Cal State Fullerton, and they represented the last time it was in the Pacific Rim. And so I called their guys, I called their coach, and asked him about the experience, what's going on. Well, think about it. They actually won. I think they were in the College World Series that year. Well, you just finished, right? Well, the World University Games for us, they started at the a third week in August. So you don't have your new players in. Then you just lost all your guys to the draft, and and he told me it's just not a fair fight. It's not a fair fight because these teams have been cheating. They've been training for a year
Forever.
with their team, and we're trying to get over there. It's not our traditional season, and we got all these questions and things going on. He goes, it's just a really tough battle to play those good teams over there. Japan's been going at they pick an all-star team of the whole country, and they're playing full time. And I said, okay, okay. And I asked my administration, can we do it? Will you guys support us if we have to miss some class? Got the okay. And then the thing that I thought was going to help me was I thought that we were going to get some of our pro guys to be able to stay and play. And I talked to scouting directors, I talked to guys pro ball, and they all said, yeah, we would let them do it for something like that. July comes, they all changed their mind and didn't let any of them do it. And so we we uh we were hacking roster together, and I was taking guys from the Cape back, and so we were trying to train in July, and at the end of July, the guys from the NBC tournament in Wichita were kind enough. They reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'll give you a spot in the NBC tournament so you guys can play in the tournament to get ready for the World Games." And so we hadn't gotten all of our guys back and all this. It was a nightmare. In fact, I looked at my assistant Marty when we were walking up the steps to the plane. I said, If I ever say we're going to do this again, just punch me right in the head." Yeah. I mean, we were actually flipping roster like 2 days before, trying to get the freshmen to come. That we weren't going to have to use the freshmen,
Wow.
and we played terrible in the NBC tournament, right? And I was like, oh my God, I didn't want to embarrass ourselves as USA. As fate would have it, man, what a crazy, awesome experience. I mean, we get over there, all the stuff that I just told you about. and we played Mexico in the first game, and we come out. It was at one of their pro stadiums, and crowd, big crowd, and the University of Iowa has a connection with Taiwan in their business program. Has since the '60s. I look up. There's like 300 people with signs and Hawkeye gear on from Taipei all the way back to the '60s, and
Wow.
in the engineering program and the business program. So that was really cool. And we ended up, and it was really hot over there, and we ended up we won that game. Didn't play great, but we won that game. And then, as fate would have it, they had kind of set it up so Taipei could play Japan for the championship if it worked out, right? Well, um, Taiwan, they blew game one to France. Game's over. Guy drops a fly ball. They're up one. Runner second, third, 2 outs, and both runs score. And France walks them off. And then they end up losing. They had to do the quick turnaround, and then it's 1-2 barbecue. And so the way they sold the seats was all the people had to buy the whole pass to get a ticket. And so here's all these people from Taiwan who've been waiting for this, and they're out. And so we we just then we beat this team. We beat Russia, and then we beat which they weren't great, but then we beat the Czech Republic, and we had a guy threw a no hitter against the Czech Republic. And they actually were pretty good. Had a lot of American players, and then um, we had to beat Korea, and they were good. And so that's who Taipei thought they would, or that's who the Japanese thought that they would be playing in the championship. Well, somehow, some way, I mean, it's pretty much packed because they were coming out to the games because they already bought the tickets, and it's all Taiwan people, and they were kind of neutral, right? They don't really like Korea, but they don't really like us. They don't know us either. And so we scored like 4 runs late, incredible game, like rally, and we win, and people are going crazy. I mean, it was a crazy, crazy, unbelievable comeback, and we upset them, and the fans are all cheering for us. And I had a guy that I took with me who played pro ball in Taipei, and so he grabbed me. He's like, make the players right now, make them start bowing to the crowd, and they will be on our side the rest of the tournament. And so all the players were bowing to the crowd, and then they cheered for us, and we ended up getting the silver medal. The Japanese beat us in the championship game, but we're the only team to ever medal in the World University Games because of all the stuff I told you prior. But somehow, some way, we put it together with a kind of half together, and and you know what? I'll never ever forget that experience. It was so cool and so awesome. And the guys that were on that trip, we were over there for 16 days or 17 days,
Wow.
and learning how to adjust on the fly with the weather because it would be a real heat index of 109 at 9 in the morning. And so we would the first night that I almost cost us the game against Mexico because we did full traditional pregame fungos, BP in uniform. I mean, the guys were soaked through. I mean, it was smoking like 115 heat index. And then I watched the Japanese game, and they were in shorts, t-shirt. They didn't do
Oh,
much. They did their hitting in the cages where they had shade, and so we had to adapt to that and be smart with that, which helped as we learned what was going on. But it was pretty wild. And then the tournament, regular tournament, um, we just try to make it an extension of what we do. When you're a process program, you do what you do, day in, day out, do things right every day, and just play. Try not to make it a bigger deal than it is. We talk even in the fall that for us to make it through a regional, like losers bracket, Big Ten tournament, there are going to be guys that haven't pitched in a long time. So if you don't pitch on the weekend or the midweek game, then we scrimmage with those guys the next day. And if you don't take those scrimmages seriously, then yeah, you're
seriously.
going to have an excuse. But if you look at every team that's kind of an underdog team, they'll have some guy that hadn't thrown since April 20th that threw 4 innings in an elimination game that stepped up so they won. And we talk about that early on, and we talk about that with the guys that are coming off the bench or the injury situation. We just got to keep moving, next man up, especially on the pitching side. That those guys that aren't throwing, they have to be ready to go because you're going to need them in a tournament like that. Because it's really kind of
Mhm.
wacky. We play 3 game series, very structured. Tuesday game or a Wednesday game the whole year for 14 weeks. And then we get to the tournament, and the tournament is literally nothing like anything you've done the whole year. So we also try to get in a tournament or two if we can find them early in the season, and then we talk about it. Then this is like how a regional would be. This is what we'd have to do here, um, and you try to prepare as best you can from the logistical side, but the mental side is just next pitch, just like we always do. Don't make it a bigger deal because if you try, it's going to backfire.
Mm. Okay. Well, Coach, you got any closing remarks? I'm gonna close it out. I got one last question, but it's a post. It's called a post game. You know, every time you have a game, you have a post game talk, right? It's always a
Yeah,
post
yeah,
game talk. But I got a question. I want you to close me out and give a nice remark to the listeners and the guys that be listening
yeah,
to this show and parents
yeah.
as
Well,
well.
I just appreciate you, Coach Lowry, and appreciate what you do, and appreciate you reaching out to me. Um, you know, um, to
I'm an Iowa
yeah,
fan, by the way.
yeah,
Now,
to think enough of me to put me on your podcast. That's humbling, and it means a lot to me. And so thank you for that, and then thank you for asking questions that I don't get asked very often.
oh
And usually it's the status quo stuff, and they
yeah,
don't put a lot of time or effort into thinking
yeah,
outside the box or something
yeah.
different.
I got a
I,
big
I,
list
yeah,
of.
I mean, I really enjoyed it because it was so different than
Appreciate it.
the other ones I've been on, and it allowed me to expand on things that I normally don't get to talk about,
Good.
and put me outside my comfort zone a little earlier. I want to talk about how things were when I first started, and
I
fight
like
through
it.
it, and never give up and never quit. Just keep playing, and good things will happen.
That's
And
right.
that's been the story of my life. Just keep pushing and playing and taking chances and taking risks, um, and believing in yourself when others don't, and just keep moving on. So I don't know. I just hope that it was what you wanted out of it, and it was great to see you again.
Well, Coach, you gave me a little bit more than I actually expected, and I'm pretty happy that I was persistent on, being consistent because I mean, you think about it, you think about Division 1 baseball, you don't really think about Iowa, you don't think about Iowa State, you don't think about other schools. They're great schools, but I'm an underdog too. I'm a Pete Rose guy, so that's why I
Yeah,
do the things I do. And you're a very humbling man. I appreciate God has blessed. God has truly blessed you. You blessed me. I
yeah,
believe that
yeah.
you're gonna have a great season. I'll be praying for you and your family, your lovely wife. But we got a post game. The post game. This is the last question.
All right.
You got one question now. You got to think about this one.
Oh boy.
You only got 30 minutes, and you got this person can be dead or alive.
Ooh.
Who would you like to play with or coach with for 30 minutes and why? This is post game. This is the last
Hmm.
question. 30 you got to pick somebody. It's going to be one person.
Man, that's
You
so
got
hard.
30 minutes left. He can be dead or alive or she. And why?
Well, I will answer it based on the influence they had on me as a young kid, and how I went about my business. I talked about Pete Rose on the how hard I played, but believe it or not, the guy I really looked up to, the athlete I looked up to that I tried to model myself after was Dr. J. Julius Irving, believe it or not, because I always thought Dr. J had class and dignity and about how he went about his business. I don't know him. I'd love to meet him, but and whether that is true in his outside life, but that was the persona that he had. And then I already had the motivation to play a game hard and all those types of things, but I just loved how he handled himself. And I always tried to be a guy that did things with class and dignity, and respect the game and respect the things that I feel like are important, and teach the kids to try to do that as well. And for whatever reason, Dr. J was the guy that I thought embodied that a lot.
That's good. Julius Irvin. I've heard quite a few. I've heard Mickey Mantle. I've heard Jesus.
Well,
I've heard
the other guy that was the other guy would have been Evil Knievel.
So I like, Coach, you all right. Hey, you my guy. You are
because,
my
because
guy.
one thing that I saw him do that it stuck with me like it was yesterday. And this is kind of how my brain works. I mean, I'm not going to let somebody down if I give them a word. I'm not going to. I'm going to come through somehow, some way. And he got over to England and he had to jump these buses, right? And he got there and the math didn't add up. He knew he couldn't get up to enough speed to make it. And he got up there and said, basically, I mathematically I can't make it, but I'm not going to let Wembley Stadium down when it's completely packed. I'm going to try anyway.
That's
And
right.
then crashed and broke all his bones. And I just thought to myself, that is pretty. Maybe some people say it's dumb, but which, but to be brave enough and mentally tough enough, and then to honor your word enough
Right.
to do
That
that.
goes. That's pretty deep. That's
That one hit me when I heard that, and outside of the other stuff that whatever everybody thought about POP was cool or whatever. I have always it's always stuck with me that when I saw that as a young kid, I was just like, man, that meant something.
that's right. As a man of integrity, his word means everything. You know.
Right? Yeah,
Well,
it was pretty wild.
Coach, and also I don't want to forget. I say this before I get off the air with you. I'm going to help you out with the NIL. I've got some connections.
All
I
right.
just when you said it, I'm like, okay, he keeps talking, he's talking, he's talking. I'm gonna get back with you with that. I've got some connections to help you out. I wanna be part of
That
that.
would be wonderful because we really need help. I'm a it's solo for me.
I'm serious. When you said it, I'm gonna help you. So you got
All
my
right.
word. Hey, we're from the same cloth, but I'm gonna help you out. And I know you have a busy schedule, and I want to make sure that I got your number. You got my number. We can work after practice or whatever the case is. But with that being said, I mean, you've been a blessing. God is using you in your program, and I speak the blessing upon your program this year. I may have to come up to South Florida and watch you play if my schedule permits. But the
Yeah.
last question for the listeners is this: I ask the question I always coach. I ask all the listeners of one listening to You Going Pro, what lane are they going to? Coach Hiller has gave some great information. And the question is what lane you're going in. When you're driving down a highway, right, Coach, you either going north, south, east, or west. And you can only go one way. But the key word is what's leading you. And I'm going to spell it out. It's an acronym I go by L. The L stands for listen. You heard a lot of information that Coach is giving you today. Are you going to listen and do what Coach has given us? Some powerful information. And the good book says faith without works is dead. So you got to listen. That's something this generation and people don't like to do. But I challenge everyone that's listening to the show today to listen. The next letter is E. So I'm leading you to a certain lane. The E stands for execute. Coach has given you so much information that you can listen and execute. And if you do that, you shall always dominate. That's the key. What lane are you going through? Because I want to lead you to the direction you need to go. Hey, this is Coach Lowry, the very own Coach Healer. The Iowa baseball program is up and coming. He has won over 1,000+ games and many more to come. Coach, it has been a blast. We will talk again. Hey, stay blessed. Love you, Coach. Take
Thank you,
care.
Coach Lowry. Appreciate
You
you
got
having me.
it. You're welcome. Bye bye.